We have fantastic bulbs, and I'd like to talk to you about them briefly, and then we're going to go in the garden and do some planting. How does that sound? First of all, we carry, as you see, just a very small selection of bulbs. The best ones, for example, our tulips, are the viridiflora types. These tulips have the actual leaf structure in the petal, and so they're very, very, very firm, and they last 2 to 3 times longer than most tulips. So if you are able to protect them from any rampaging pests, they're beautiful and wonderful to grow. And we like to put them in groups of usually 5, sort of interspersed in the beds, just to bring some zing to the early season. And the emperor tulips are also very beautiful, long-lived, and this one especially we've been very happy with, called exotic emperor. We have that planted in sort of a wooded, shaded area in the garden, and I do spray it to keep it protected, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful white early in the season. The minor bulbs, or small bulbs, that we carry are irises, species tulips, and fritillaria. And these little gems come up generally really, really early, and they're kind of, oh, how do you describe them? They're so cheering because most of the landscape is still dormant and sleepy, and yet they come up and have beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spring color. So this is a great time to get motivated in your garden. A great time. You'll be so happy in the spring if you take just a few extra moments now in this gorgeous fall we're having to plant some bulbs. And we'll show you some more in the garden. We included also in our selection, of course, alliums and daffodils. The daffodils are usually, you know, a little bit difficult to integrate because they kind of look a little artificial in the garden, but we have them because they offer lots of color and they're completely resistant to pests. Because most people who garden know that bulbs can be eaten quite readily in the garden. So daffodils are wonderful for that, and I'll show you how to use them in the garden effectively to get some color and then let them ripen and be good for many years. So the bulbs that we carry are all selected by us gardeners at the Squire house. They're amongst our very favorites, and we hope that you will come and explore. So we'll go outside now and do a little planting. All right, so this is a wonderful way to augment the spring garden. We're going to plant some sort of smallish daffodils in an area that's kind of more naturalistic. So after the daffodils bloom, they'll still get plenty of sun to ripen off. And I use daffodils very carefully in conjunction particularly with hosta and daylilies, because they blend in really easily with the foliage. So after they're done blooming, you don't need to be concerned about hiding anything because they just kind of blend right in. So I've chosen this little section here. I've done this over the years with this area of the garden. And I'm going to take the hosta foliage, just push it back, and then I'm going to plant the daffodil, you know, some distance away from the crown of the hosta so it has room. The tool that I'm using is a Dutch bulb planter, and they are available through Squire House. We might have 1 or 2 in stock, but they're really nice to work with if you're doing, you know, any number of bulbs. One thing, important note as we progress here, is to notice that you don't pay attention to the tags on bulb planting depths, because they're written for European climates. And European climates generally don't get to be 30 degrees below zero in the winter. So we always go deep. And we have good light soil. And if it's heavier, then I would lighten it up with some, augment it with something to lighten it, like maybe a little coarse sand or a little bit of compost. But we have really good bulb soil, so I'm not going to bother with that step. So I prepared the hole, and this is an important ingredient in successful bulbs. They need food, because what they're going to do when they go in the ground, they're growing. They're not growing leaves, they're growing roots. So it's kind of a nice lesson in sort of life, is that not always do we show, you know, our growth up above. Oftentimes our growth happens beneath the earth, and then we bloom later. So I'm gonna, in this hole, just, you see, quite deep, very deep. So these are kind of medium-sized bulbs, so I would say 6 inches is about, is about it. We're just finishing up a little project. The inside it goes. You know, of course the bulb has to be oriented the right way, you know, with the roots downward. And then cover. And if there's no rain in the forecast, you will water. Now I'm gonna do another one. How far? Well, only about 5 inches or less apart. Now if I didn't have my auger, I could accomplish the same task with a trowel. And that's good if you're planting what most homeowners plant, which is, you know, not a lot. Now, professionals like myself, you know, we can plant 100 bulbs in a day, and to save our wrists, we use the auger, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's that. I'll finish this later. Next, we're gonna do a small planting over here. You can see it's kind of a mix of really nice perennials, actually, and some kind of weedy ground cover. And it gets a fair amount of light, you know, in the morning especially, enough. And I have these irises planted on the other areas in this quadrant. And these are little reticulata iris bulb. And what they do is they bloom, and they're quite, even though they're little, they're quite intense in color. And they bloom very, very early in big clusters. And they're really beautiful. And then after they bloom, they send up these sort of grassy foliage that you need to allow to ripen. And the way to plant small bulbs, I find, is just to simply dig it's unusual, a rock. Just dig a little section of soil out, like so. And this is a good tool for all kinds of planting, of course. And this is the same way you would do a larger bulb, like a tulip bulb. You would do the same kind of hole, sort of a trench, only deeper. And then you add your fertilizer. So this company does very specialized formulations for different kinds of plants. So it's not just bone meal, it's got other micronutrients in it. Nice and loose. And then all you do is, let's see, I'm gonna put these in about 3.5 inches deep. Well, 4. And they're close together, really close together. And the groupings for small bulbs are generous, so I'm putting in 9. And the other grouping that I didn't mention was 5 for the other daffodils, or the other bulbs that I put in. Anyway, we also have some very special and more expensive bulbs, but the thing that's nice about them is that they're very long-lived. Whereas some of these bulbs, I don't know, even these, if I get 3 or 4 years, I would regard that as a successful run for a bulb. But they're not very long-lived generally, but some are, so make that distinction. Anyway, I haven't been working much in the garden, so what I need to do really today is think about what I'm going to do for fall, including bulbs, division, removal. But today, I get to weed because we've had a very mild fall. So that's what I'm gonna do. Thanks for listening. That's it. That's it. Alright. Well, I better get busy out here.